I'm going to pull a Brad and go, what is up,
What
everybody?
is up, everybody?
What's
Tasha
up?
loves it.
I hope everyone is doing well today. Um, Today, we are talking about something that I just was talking to my kids about yesterday. Freaking excuses.
Pac-Man.
I wanted to say they're like assholes. Everyone's got one. There we go, dude. No, realistically, excuses are interesting, man. Because I was looking at some stuff earlier after we were talking about it, Brad. And let me find where this was. It was interesting, dude. There's like the way I saw it. Okay, was that there's basically like three stages in freaking life that, and you can destroy all of them when it comes down to making excuses for yourself, for people around you, right? You're either like literally aspiring for success, trying to become someone, or you're kicking ass and you're in there, you know, you're working from home, you're doing your own thing, you've got your business, and you're making excuses for people around you, or maybe kind of what I want to get into is like if you lose a contract, if you freaking make a mistake, or if you think someone else made a mistake, right? And then also like after you've had a big old freaking hit and you're not rocking it anymore and you're trying, it's time to rebuild. You know, all of these stages, like you're always in one of these three stages. I see it as. I mean,
What were the three stages specifically again?
coming up, right? You're aspiring to build that business. You want to get in there. Also, like when you're there, when you're rocking it, working with clients, doing lead gen, whatever you're working on in your life, and then after a dip, losing a contract.
So basically, the come up,
yep,
the peak, and then kind of the downturn.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's a roller coaster for me. I've seen that multiple times. You know. So everyone, Fletch, you've seen up and down for yourself, or what, dude?
Oh yeah, throughout life, online since I got online, throughout life, and the thing is too that there's you can track in all likelihood a lot of things in your life and your health and your relationships. All those different cycles will kind of follow each other, right? A lot of times I've experienced times when maybe I didn't pay attention to my health enough, and soon after that the business started lagging, and soon after that relationships got a little more dicey and things like that, right? So there's a lot to this, and I think probably what you're pointing at, or what I would start to look toward, is that those come from our thoughts, right? They come from our beliefs in what is true and good and important and real, and those have actual implications in the real world and in our behavior and in the things that we actually take on and do. And because of that, we tend to see these cycles kind of all follow each other, through life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, tying it all together. Like I know when I had a downturn one time, I was heaviest I'd ever been. I was walking around angry all the time. Of course, wasn't getting along with, any of the family, just like grab a plate, throw it down. The kid's like, I wasn't done eating that, but I feel like now that I've got the gym schedule down and, working out, getting my back was all jacked up back in the day. And getting that down, it kind of relieves kind of the stress, the pressure, the whatever. And then you can, get everything else in order from there. So I feel like, they do say health, wealth, and whatever, all the other shit that, Tai Lopez quotes, but, it really, does come into play quite significantly.
Yeah. And to Brad's point of, getting that regular gym schedule, like if you're weaponized in the area of your body, where you feel that you feel strength, where you can, you can accomplish what you have to accomplish for the day. You've got the energy, you've got the strength, you're in a pain-free body. I can relate to the back stuff. I mean, I had a motorcycle accident about 1.5 years ago, and it was a long road, man. I'm way better off. I've been under chiropractic care for years, and just but it enabled.
Do you always feel tight after the chiropractor? Sometimes I do. It seems to get a little bit worse before it gets better.
It does.
Definitely.
I was in there Tuesday. He's like, son of a bitch, you're tight. I was like, thank you, Daddy. But but yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was just curious if it was me or everyone.
It's a good point though, man. Like when we're talking about, you know, a downturn, if you're feeling like shit, dude, like straight up, man, that's going to affect everything. That's going to affect your work. It's going to affect your family life. Like it's not a joke, dude. So it's really easy. I know for me, it's really easy to make an excuse not to get up and fucking run or hit the gym or hit the bags, right?
You got to listen to Goggins and then just fucking start doing it, you know?
Yeah, I put on like Biden, and then I start doing it. But
put on what? Vitamin C? I haven't heard that in a while. Oh, Biden. Yeah.
I'm just have to throw something political out there. I really don't care.
Oh, that'll piss you off. That'll make you want to hit something.
There you go. Makes you want to hit it.
Right.
But if you, I mean, I do. I'll make excuses. You know, I went.
It's easy.
I went to. There's a meeting I go to every week in town. You know, and I never want to go to this thing, dude. And it's so easy to make an excuse not to go. And if I do make that excuse, and I see the repercussions of what happens after I don't go every single time. But so these excuses, like when we're talking about excuses, like if you're aspiring, like, well, if I quit my day job and I don't do this, will I be able to pay my rent? No, you know what? I can't quit my day job because I've got to feed my family. You know, I can't try this. I can't do this. There's always a manifestation of this. And I know you've seen it, Brad, and I was going to ask Fletch and Corey too about this. Like the law of attraction, dude, excuses to me are a very big way to create negative emotion that you're not even conscious of. And I truly believe that you do manifest in your life what you are looking towards and what you're subconsciously working towards, right? Whether that's a magical manifestation or you are making decisions based on a colored mind with, you know, anxiety or a negativity. It's straight up like if something goes wrong in your morning, you can look at this shit like it's okay, the day's ruined, today sucks, or hey, the next minute.
You know what? That starts, Mike. I think, you know, if something goes wrong in the morning, the first thing that usually goes wrong for most people in the morning is they hit the snooze button.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, bro.
That's where it starts, because you're subconsciously telling yourself that you are not going to.
Who's that handsome fellow?
Oh, this little guy.
Hey, buddy.
That's Nathaniel right there.
What up, Nathaniel?
Nathaniel.
Welcome to YouTube.
You're famous, bro.
There he goes.
Oh, how you been, buddy? I haven't seen you for a while. We need to go to the beach again, man.
The kids and wife got all excited because I was like, hey, Mac was on YouTube. And my kid's like, he's all obsessed with YouTube because he watches it all the time. He's like, no, he wasn't. I was like, bullshit, he wasn't. So I bring up my phone and I like try and find where the dog's in the background. I was like, there he is. He's like, oh, man.
Yeah, so, dude, I mean, I find, so, you know, if you hit that snooze button, it sends that subconscious signal to your brain that I've set. The very first goal for my day was to get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I missed it. Or whatever time it is that you
mindset, bro.
It does help to get up at a certain period, at a certain time every day as well, I found. And I know it's backed by clinical studies as well, that you have to, you know, get in that routine, especially for waking up, not necessarily as much for going to bed, but for waking up. That starts your day. And I know in our industry, it's easy to hit the snooze a few times because where the fuck do we have to be, you know?
Absolutely. Right. You can if you want to. Most days, let's be honest, if you really want to, you can just sit in bed if you wanted to, dude.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, this morning when I got up, I read, I was reading Epictetus's Discourses, right? And
spell that.
What's that?
Spell that.
Epictetus.
That sounds about right.
So basically, it's this. Ask yourself, and this is cool because I was thinking about this morning. I started thinking about my morning routine. Ask yourself the following first thing in the morning. What am I lacking in attaining freedom from passion? What for tranquility? What am I? A mere body, a stakeholder, or reputation? None of these things. What then? A rational being. What then is demanded of me? Meditate on your actions. How do I steer away from serenity? What did I do that was unfriendly, unsocial, or uncaring? I ask myself that crap at night, but what did I fail to do in all these things? And that's Epictetus Discourses 4:6, right? And so like my thing in the morning, because of like my past and my history, is I say a prayer, and I literally just ask to not be self-seeking, and I go off and I start my day that way. And I agree. If I hit the snooze button, that shit doesn't happen. If that shit doesn't happen, then I'm in a rush, and I start to all these other things start to go wrong because
the cascades, yeah, 100%.
That and your morning starts the night before as well. So
absolutely,
which helps quite a bit.
Yeah. So, and I found that is one thing, especially, as soon as when I quit my job like 7 years ago, I was like, I don't have to ever get up on, on a calendar. Kids weren't in school yet. They were the ones that would wake me up. And I just saw like a slow decline in my work ethic, in my productivity, and just my overall, joy of the experience of life. Because at that point you're responding to the day if you don't get up on time, if you're not obeying and listening to the own cues.
You've got to be reactive instead of proactive at that point.
Yeah. And that's the last thing that you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about routine, I think, for me. Fletch, do you have a morning routine, dude, or like what's your do you have something like that, or what's behind the mind of Fletch?
Me.
How deep you want to go?
Me, actually, me. And so that actually kind of leads to kind of the thing I have come to realize is a lot more important than it might outwardly seem, is that we have to have a dependable method for making decisions, and feelings are not dependable. They can easily be hijacked and engineered by other outside forces. Luck can happen. And so feelings really can't be the primary method of making a decision, right? You need to have a method that exists elsewhere and that you have some power over, and then using that method to engineer your circumstances such that you do feel good about doing the right things. That's kind of my success method, right? And not really mine. It's a success method I use, and it's extremely effective, and everyone can use it. People tend to very often, I say people, myself included, like I've been very much stuck in doing what I felt was even like, oh, I feel like this is important. That's still, you've missed the boat, right? Because it's like, well, I feel this is important. Why? Well, because you just watched a commercial, or you just watched the inauguration, or you just watched a whatever. This is still a way that you can get hijacked by this stuff. And so without a method that exists elsewhere other than feelings, that has a lot more to do with logic and implications and things like this, we're really just rolling the dice. And a lot of us get lucky enough that it makes it seem like perseverance and putting your head down and ignoring all of these things is the right way to do it. But it's not really. We have to take into account these things, such as feelings, such as, even if you're not taking into account feelings, it means you're ignoring how most people behave most of the time. That's not good strategy either. Right?
For me, excuses are so insidious because I truly believe the only thing that we can control as people is the way we react to the input and the stimuli around us. I absolutely cannot control if my wife stays with me. I cannot control if my kids survive today. I cannot control my own body if I go out and get hit by a car. I can control nothing except how I respond to everything that happens around me. And if I am talking and I'm making excuses for myself, I believe I am subconsciously engineering a negative result from my actions.
Yeah, well, engineering is a word I use a lot. Like, you need to look at engineering your life. Like, so an engineer, when they design a catapult or something like that, right? It's not.
If I were an engineer, that's what I would be designing.
A catapult, right?
Yeah,
a ballista, some kind
expert,
of crazy war machine, right?
My brother has this equation, and he's in a wheelchair. He was diagnosed with a hereditary disease. It's just been a slow decline. He's been losing different faculties as the years have progressed. He's outlived his life expectancy now by 12 years. He's 42. But he's the most positive guy that I know, that most people who know him know. And he has an equation that kind of goes to what you were talking about, Mike and Fletch. Is he says that it's the event plus your response equals the outcome. So if you perceive an event that happens in your life as negative, you're going to have a negative response to that, and that's going to have a negative outcome ultimately to the event. if you're assigning this negative and positive thing. So, but if you transition your thinking into these things are happening not to me, but for me, then your response becomes positive. At least it has the opportunity to be, to become and perceive positive. And when you throw that in, it's the alchemy of the event plus your response that equals the result, the ultimate result, or the outcome. So then you can actually take anything you perceive to be negative that happens, to you, and start thinking this is happening for me and for my good, and then I can respond in a way that is going to bring out the greatest good and the highest purpose for everyone involved. So 100%, Mike and Fletch, like when you start to perceive things like that in the world, ultimately that are completely out of your control, these events that happen. Your response is going to be, it's a simple math equation, right? You're gonna throw something else in there that will be your response. And if it's not a response, it's done in anger or in fear or, these negative emotions, that you actually have the opportunity to flip anything for your good.
One of the things that like kind of even like at the foundational understanding that we have of how particles work, there's something called the observer effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally, if you're watching a thing happen, it changes the outcome of the thing happening, right?
Yeah, it changes the vibration of the particle.
So that's like somehow inherently we have a power as a being, right? We're not saying in our mind or whatever else, like as a being to do something with our attention. And that fundamentally changes things and how things work and what manifests out of that. And, all the dots aren't necessarily connected, and I'm not trying to do that here, but we have to understand that we do have a power over the physical world in some way, right? We can control our attention. And like all too often we're talking about excuses kind of as the concept today. But, once we start kind of like believing a thing, another aspect of our mind kicks into gear and it starts looking for justification of that belief, right? And so if we're allowing ourselves to believe something negative, then we start looking for the justification of that. Oh, well, I'm, a piece of crap, or I've never, I was an imposter the whole time and they finally caught me, or, I was just destined to turn out this way, or whatever it might be. Your mind is really good at justifying and trying to find reasons why this thing is happening, right?
Another thing I see a lot of people do as far as excuses goes is redirecting the blame off of themselves so they can, I guess, feel better. I've seen that happen, a multitude of times throughout my career. It wasn't my fault. It was so-and-so's fault. And then they'll find the smallest thing that so-and-so did that could have, caused the domino effect. And that's how it goes. Have you guys seen that quite a bit?
Well, and exactly what you said, it's so disempowering. It means I now don't have any control over something that could make things better.
Yeah.
Right?
Where I feel like if you own it, you're like, shit, my bad. I'll learn from that. This won't happen again. Where if you redirect the blame or place the blame on something or someone else, then it's hard to for you to fix it.
Man. I said that's the start of having it happen again. And unfortunately, human nature is to not admit when we make mistakes, right?
It is, yeah. Immediately you throw someone else under the bus or something else under the bus.
Well, but then also,
go ahead, Corey.
Well, no, I was going to say that when you're in that game of blaming, that means you've also, previous to doing that, you've shifted the responsibility for something that you were supposed to be responsible for onto somebody else. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you make a hire that's supposed to do something and get some work done, and you feel like, I'm just going to take my hands off the wheel because so-and-so's got it. That is, like you said, Fletch, completely disempowering, where you nobody else is going to be your business owner.
It's weak. Let's just say it like it is. Yeah. It's straight up weak, and it's an excuse later that you can go to your wife and be like, well, dude, I hired Joe. Joe fucked it up. It wasn't my fault, but shame on me because I didn't watch my damn employee and watch my clientele, right? It's just weak, dude.
Yeah.
I think that you see it all over society right now is there's excuses and there's these things for everything. It's like, well, the swamps weren't drained. I voted for Trump. It wasn't my fault. This blah, blah, blah. It just in any aspect of life right now, I think you can look at people shifting the responsibility for their actions off of themselves. And it's ingrained in our culture a lot. And
it's getting worse too, I feel like.
Yeah, for
sure. Because people are trying to.
I don't think it's over.
What's that?
I mean, it's human nature. I mean,
Yeah.
straight up, it is human nature to want to find a reason that it is not your fault that something happened.
And then on
That's
the other
not
end, people try and protect other people's feelings, I feel like. So, oh, don't worry
Very
about it.
much
It
so.
wasn't your fault.
Bill.
You know, no, you fucked up. You know, here, you know, fucking learn from it. You know, but I'm more blunt than some. But I still bite my
You
tongue
have
quite
to
a
be,
bit.
dude.
Yeah.
You have to be. It's you're a parent. You're a businessman. You have to be blunt, because if you're not blunt, then you're just causing issue for the people that are relying on you down the road, anyways. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
mean,
one of the ways, one of the ways to be blunt, and this is just something I employ in my own life, and I try to point it back at myself, like kind of first, right? It's like somebody says, "Oh, you're right." No, I'm not right. That's right.
yeah.
Like, let's talk about the principle here. Let's talk about what we're actually trying. What's driving these choices? What's driving our understanding of what's actually good and true and important, right? And so when we can kind of depersonalize things, sometimes it helps not escalate it to a place where somebody gets butt hurt. Now they're just off the friggin', in some la land, and there's all this animosity that blinds people to things, right? And so, when it gets personal, just because we're social creatures, and people have ideas about but it really just completely blinds you when somebody says you're wrong or you're right. Both of those are equally bad, because if you start thinking you're right, you no longer challenge your own understanding of what's going on.
I'm right can be an excuse as well, dude. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this because I was right, and screw that. I'm going to keep fighting with my wife. I'm going to keep being
trying, wanting to be right all the time is actually a form of violence, right?
Right.
So, instead of wanting to be right, if you instead want to be, in relationship with somebody, and you want to preserve a relationship, and you want to preserve your own mind, and you don't want to have these extremes in your own mind, then you give up your need to be right and just do what's ethical for the situation, and then you sleep at night. So what's the point of being right if it costs you relationships, if it causes you?
It's like Thanos, right? What it cost, everything.
Yeah. Well, and like relationship, right? The root word, relate. Right? You have to have the ability to relate and to understand why the person did the thing they did.
It's about resolution and not right, man. It really is. Like an argument between a spouse and their spouse, it never should be about who's right, who's wrong. It should be about getting along, right? And that's the same everywhere. Now, I'm not trying to sound like a hippie like Brad or anything, but it's true.
Yeah, you look up hippie in the dictionary, that's me.
There's a big old picture of Brad in
Yeah.
a sundress. He's pretty.
Yeah, I've got the daisy thing, like the hair.
Blue polka dot, blue with white polka dots, baby.
That's my favorite. Yeah, no underwear.
No underwear, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
On a breezy day.
It's really interesting though, because I totally, like, the other day I saw it happen. It was like my birthday, dude, and some shit went wrong, and I was like, I knew this was gonna happen, right? I told myself this thing before it happened, and then it did, and then I kept thinking like this, dude, and until I kept going and just getting shit kept happening, shit kept being bad, shit kept being annoying, this and that. And Steph looks at me and she goes, dude, you're responding with emotion. I think it was Corey or Fletcher that said it, but I was responding with like what I thought was going to happen.
You gotta break the pattern.
I knew I let myself sit in it. Like I literally thought multiple times, like I keep letting this happen. And finally I just said, well, fuck it, it's done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And instantly it was fine, of course, and it is true. So like this engineering, this law of attraction, manifestation shit, it's there, dude. Like it is all a part of your attitude and what you allow to happen and what you accept as what's going to be reality.
So let's unpack that a little bit, Mike. So
yeah.
I heard a quote that I thought was really good when it comes to to like fear and worry, especially, in maybe light of events around our country or things that have to do in business, or anything, your body. So whatever it is that you are worried about and you're in fear about, that's constantly just that app is always running. You're actually that is a way of praying really hard for something that you actually don't want, but you're meditating on it. You're carrying that energy. Your vibration is low, and you're attracting those things into your life. So you're essentially praying really hard for things that you don't want. So then the trick is to figure out what triggered you, And then what can you apply? What knowledge can you apply? For me, I apply like certain scriptures to certain worries that come up in my mind about, different things in life that happen. And then I'm alleviated so my mind is able to let go of that and to trust. And then you stop attracting those things into your life, and you stop.
And that is the key. And they touched on it a little bit in the movie The Secret. It's one thing that people have seen. I think a lot of people have seen.
Guess what Mike just watched, everyone?
The Secret.
Yeah.
Did I? Yeah, right. I rewatched it actually like 2 weeks ago, dude.
That's not bad. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's a good watch. I watched it and then read the book, but it was word for word the book.
It's good, but it's light. It's like a light version of what.
Yeah, it's not. It just scratches the surface. Yeah.
Yeah, philosophy is freaking every day, all day, for the rest of your life, anyway.
Philosophizer.
But so really though, like, what was I going with this shit? I might have forgotten, but what did you say, Corey?
Well, just like when you worry about something, you're praying really hard for that.
No, absolutely, dude. And it comes down to, they do mention it in there, and this is something that I truly have believed for a while now, is that if you have negative thought, subconscious going on, whether like the way you consciously think affects the way you are subconsciously thinking, and your subconscious is what is engineering everything that's going on. Dude.
Right. So here's a perfect example. So when we had our first kid, we had the first baby, we were constantly worried. Oh, she, her poop looks funny. She's got a rash. She's got a fever. We're rushing her to the hospital. We're just constantly worried about everything.
I remember how slow I drove out of the hospital. The first, like going over speed bumps, I was like,
yeah, exactly. You're you're freaking worried about it, and we were so worried about that. Then she got asthma, and she was on an inhaler, and we worried about it. The next kid that came along when Naomi showed up, we were a little less worried about things, and she saw the doctor far fewer times. She had far fewer health issues. And then when Nathaniel came along, I can't remember the last time that he had to go to the doctor for anything. And it goes back to this story, and in the Bible, there's a guy named Job, and he's constantly worried. He's worried about all of his kids, and he's making offerings and sacrificing and praying like all the time. He's just totally worried about them. And then the Bible says the thing that Job feared came upon him. So it's like it's there in black and white. It's an experience that most people can probably relate to. When you let go of that, for me, I release it to God, and I just say I can't trust myself to be the ultimate doctor in my kids' lives or for their future. I have to release and let go. And then in Job's story, he had another family. He had he had a new set of kids. Like everybody like got boils. His kids like died. All these crazy things happened to him. His second family, we don't read anything about him having doing offerings every day and being really worried about them. He had let go and he surrendered. And then we hear stories about how great that all of his kids did after that. So I think the same thing goes in business. I think the same thing goes in relationships. It goes, even in your body. Worry, as science has come to prove, is that different types of worry are related to different ailments in the body. There's certain organs associated with stress. When you have too much stress going on, you're bringing cancer into your body. You're becoming into an oxidative state. You've got you're always in the fight or flight mode, and your adrenals are constantly pumping, and you're bringing that into your own life, and it just perpetuates itself. So knowing that, that is just your awareness of that actually happening in your life is enough to where, okay, now I'm going to start looking for the solution to these things that are happening.
Yeah, it's frame of mind, man. Excuses make this frame of mind that is a very negative thing. When you start to make excuses for everything around you, you are framing your mind. You're complaining about things. You're complaining about this and that. You're basically a slave to your emotions at that point. Like realistically, if you let yourself make excuses, you are becoming a slave to your emotion. You're slowly being pulled into that. You're slowly being pulled into being a slave to everything that happens around you, instead of realizing like, look, I can take this in stride. I can react to this. I don't need to I can react slowly to this. I can take time to react to this. I don't need to jump on it the second. And that I think is the key, is building that frame of mind, so you have the excuses out of your mindset so that you can react slowly to everything. Back to losing a client, right? You lose a client, a large client, and it's revenue, it's money, it's rent, it's food, turkey meat, everything. But literally, we're all going to go make another dollar, right? So is it worth sitting in? Is it worth sitting on that and having all that anxiety that is unneeded? Is it worth
it does no good to sit there and worry.
Right.
You should bust ass and get another client, to be honest.
Exactly.
And worry, I mean, it all comes down to your quality of life. What is the good quality of life? And I think it's a life that is filled with peace and joy, and in relationships that have been restored, maybe where they had difficulty in the past. So it all reflects your quality of life. And I heard this interesting quote from Ed Milet. If you guys don't listen to his podcast, check out Ed Milet. The dude is
he's related to Sam I Am.
Yeah. So he said, I know a lot of extremely wealthy people, like, hundreds of millions of dollars, or billionaires that are unhappy. And he said, I started thinking about this. Why are the people that have all this money, a lot of them, unhappy? And he said, it's not necessarily that people get all this money and then they become unhappy. It's that people who are unhappy typically tend to overperform, overproduce, and try to compensate for this unhappiness that they have. So they go out and they use that to earn a lot of money. So it's a little bit flipped when we start looking at that. So not to say that you have to be unhappy, obviously, to earn a lot of money, but it's indicative that when you're unhappy and you think that money and earning like that is gonna help you to find that happiness, you got to first work on this up here. You got to bring yourself to a place of joy and peace, and then you're working from inspiration when you sit down, and the excuses are gone. You're like, okay, I accept full responsibility. Now my mind is released to start being creative in the business that I'm working on and with the relationships that I have. And so when all of those things are working together, I think is really, for me, has released me to to get more creative, to do more things.
Unhappiness and money. That's why they say money leads to problems. In more problems, in my opinion, is because if you have money and you have this frame of mind of negativity, you're unhappy, then it brings those problems, dude. If you have money and you actually are content, you're happy with life, you enjoy what's going on around you, you can react to all this negativity that comes your way because of money, and it's not a problem anymore.
Well, yeah, money operates as a force multiplier.
Yes.
Right. So if you're got things figured out, you're happy, you're content, more money can make that better. Absolutely can. I've done that, and at the same time had other aspects that were force multipliers for stress, worry, not having things figured out, anxiety that came with it. And so like money doesn't really lead anywhere. It just it exacerbates or makes a greater manifestation of the other things that you've got going on that you've already kind of figured out, because
it's like that magnifying glass in the sunlight. It brings intensity. It's a tool. It definitely, you're right. And that's why I think you're spot on with the way you put that, because it's a force multiplier. If you bring negativity to it, it's going to increase that negativity quite a bit. All of a sudden there's the IRS, dude. Whatever it comes down to, like it really does seem that that's the way that people get into those problems, is because they bring that, like that overwork, everything. You're not going to find happiness if now you have that money and feel like you still have to work the same as you were before.
Well, because you've got the ability to do more of whatever you were doing. Whether it's worry, you've got the ability to worry more. If it's, I say overwork, but getting too caught up in those things and not paying attention to your health, like it's just going to make whatever you're doing that much easier to do. So,
that's why I had a problem with drugs for a long time, bro.
Money makes it easier to get them, doesn't it?
It does, dude.
I get better stuff now.
Seriously, dude, it does. It brings more of whatever. I've never actually looked at it specifically like that before, Fletch, and I really like that. It's a force multiplier. It magnifies what you're already doing, dude.
Yeah.
It's not going to change who you are, hence it's not going to change what's going on in your life when it comes to the core aspect of your frame of mind.
Yeah, one of the things I think I've talked about maybe on one of these previously or sometime, I say it a lot, but you know, if you find yourself in an emotional state that's not either curiosity or gratitude, like you should probably drop it and get back over onto those two.
Damn
It's
straight.
just like a red flag. It's easy to remember. It's like if I'm feeling worry, I can change, like losing a client, right? Maybe get curious about why you lost it, or was it ever yours, or was it ever the right client to have had, or what did you do some things in your reporting that were not sufficient to keep them, you know, aligned with what the vision for the project was, or whatever it might be, right? You can get curious about these things. And now it's like, it's not really it's taking responsibility in a certain way, but not like blaming yourself. It's just saying, I need to figure this out. So that if it is bad, we don't manifest it more. And we can change the elements, you know, kind of alchemically. We can take some of these things away, maybe add some other things in. Maybe it's going to be better next time, right? But it kind of, they actually are emotions, right? Curiosity is kind of an emotion. You can kind of feel curious and want to pull these things apart and understand it better. Right?
I think that you need pure honesty. Like you said, you need to be able to look at yourself and say, well, I've got to shift this. I've got to do this a little bit better, not get down on yourself for it. And that's where excuses are really a negative thing. Like if you make excuses, you're just lying to yourself, dude. So your pure honesty isn't there, right? You're not being totally honest with yourself. You're not getting better. And gratitude is huge, man. Gratitude, I think, is what breeds the positive subconscious that allows you to like engineer everything in a positive, in a good way to make your life turn out in a wonderful way. Without it, it's like this. If you're talking to God, you're praying, you're always saying, well, God, if you do this for me, I'm going to do this for you. Or God, just give me this, give me this, give me this. Versus I'm saying, hey, God, thank you for, you know, letting me survive that car accident. Thank you for letting me still be with my wife. Thank you for letting me still be able to work. Thank you for letting me survive coronavirus, whatever it is, right? That thank you is gratitude, man. And the way I did it, I actually carry a coin in my pocket that has a quote from Marcus Aurelius. It says, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And anytime I feel or think about that coin, I like go through what I'm thankful for, dude. And it's done. I think that's also what the power of prayer is as well. Like when people are praying in the morning, when people are praying at night, this is gratitude, man. It's all gratitude. People are putting that positivity into their mind out around them. And I think it's what allows people to experience more positivity than negativity, I would say. I don't know. But that's what I've kind of seen in my life right now.
No, that's good, man. I like that quote. Just be one.
Yeah, no, it's a sick quote.
Don't talk about it, be about it.
Yep. Just be one. And it's like, just do it, dude. And dude, Marcus, I think every business person should read freaking Marcus Aurelius, man. That dude, he had some flaws, but he most powerful man in the world, and he stayed pretty damn humble through it, you know.
While physically being, from all accounts I've read, fairly weak and sickly, right? But
bad off.
Led armies, did amazing things with the empire at the time, from what I understand. His meditations book is something I read a long time ago, and it's kind of like I go back to certain texts after a while. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm reading it differently now. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's all I've changed, and so I can see different things and elements in there. You know, that it's a book that has some thoughts that are deep. Like if you read it and it doesn't seem like it's really profound, you may need to come back to it later, just because there are some things in there that are very they point to foundationalism, right? Which is at some point I have to take responsibility for my experience and the impact I have on, you know, the world around me and myself.
I think it's one of those things where if it's like reading the Bible, man, depending on where you are, what you're asking God or what you're asking yourself, you're going to get something out of scripture every time. Right. And it's so coming back to something like that, where it's a dude's journal who was trying just to stay sane while he was the most powerful man in the world. He didn't write that for anybody but himself, bro. So like, if I'm not writing it myself when I'm reading that kind of stuff, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other if I'm not living it. And so when I read it, I'm writing. It is a part of what I'm thinking about. It's a way for me to start writing about what's going on for me, like meditating about what's going on for me, and how to deal with that, all the stupid shit I pulled today or whatever, you know.
Well, and you think about some of the stuff that's most profound in the world, right? And it has a lot of legs. Like this is a book that was written, what, 1,500, 1,600 years ago, written for themselves, right? This is not to change other people. Oh, you need to be this. It's like, be one. It's like, just be one. And just being one takes some self-examination. And that a lot of times for a lot of people throughout history has been writing it so that you can more clearly see and think properly about what's going on. And that then becomes a text that impacts, you know, millions, tens of millions of people. And that, like even some of the novels of the last century, like Catcher in the Rye, right? It was really kind of a way for J.D. Salinger to kind of relate to and make sense out of the experience he had with his daughter. And so he told it through her eyes so that she could understand it, you know, later, like in life, as she looked back with a different understanding from a different place to understand what that experience was like. There's a lot more to introspection and being able to properly represent things yourself. That then, like there was a man I studied with and a big fan of named Bo Eason. He said, the more personal you make something, the more universal it becomes. Right. And so being able to share some of these very personal things, experientially, at least, right? When you can share that, it's like, that's universal, right? Because we all have the capacities to experience these things ourselves. And so the universality of it then, like there's something in how we see things that lets us relate, right? We're talking about relationships. So it's a relationship with some nugget of experience or truth or, you know, communication thereof that I think, anyway, go. I'm rambling right now. So
no, well, like to your point, like your relationship, let's say with a particular portion of text, almost, you know, like reading meditations or, you know, a scripture from the Bible. Some people say that, you know, when you read those kinds of things, they actually read you. And it's, you know, you read something and you're like, well, I've read this before. I totally didn't get that out of it. And the reason for that is because you're a different person the next time that you've read something than you were the first time that you read it. And it's going to mean something totally unique and new to you that you didn't catch the last time. And it's not because your sense of revelation wasn't as strong, but it's just because
it's experiences, and as you read it, you can relate to it through experiences. So exactly. I feel like that's where it comes into, I did that, or I didn't do that, or I should have done that, stuff like that.
Dude,
experiences is just how you think. Like it shows you like how much your mind has changed and the way that you think. I mean, you're different now than you were a year ago or 5 years ago. You're a different person. And, you know, as far as like how you're, you know, the different apps that are running and which ones are always on. And when you drop one of those nuggets in there, you're going to, and even relationships, like how do you relate to certain people? It's different now than it was, you know, a year ago or even a month ago. So because we're always undergoing this process of the evolution in our minds and becoming, you know, hopefully more of a wise person. And when you do that, you're interpreting the world differently when things happen to you or things that you read, and they can have a completely, you know, brand new impact on the way that you see things. And then you start writing them out and get that revelation out on paper. You know, like Mike talks about, like you want to write those things down and start keeping that journal so you have a reference. And then, I mean, who's to say that you can't use this? You know, you're a living epistle. You're writing scripture, even though it's for your own life. But it can also help folks when they're, you know, might be in the same situation. So the things that you write are just as important as the things that you read, because they're your revelation. They're coming from you. They're coming from your mind. They're coming from your soul. You're picking these things up from you know, from outside yourself. These things are you're receiving this information from God and from the universe and from other people that are subconscious, and get those things down, you know, write them. Just like, I mean, that's a good lesson by Marcus, just looking at the fact that he wrote this thing just for himself. He didn't know that it would become this worldwide thing that everybody was reading, but it's full of powerful revelation and philosophy that has helped, probably who knows how many millions of people.
He wasn't trying to write a bestseller. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can go back, like I've seen the mistakes I've made, and you can go back and see where you made it before, and it's easy to not make them again when you've seen, okay, dude, this is how I figured it out last. Look, I just saw what I did in both of these situations, or I just saw this and that, and I was talking to someone, and I say journaling, I say meditation, I just mean writing down what the hell my brain is thinking about, right? It's not like, oh, my wife said this to me today, and blah 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 blah. Like, it's literally like, dude, observations of myself, man, what I'm thankful for that day, and being able to go back and look at that is extremely powerful, dude. It really is extremely powerful to be able to go back and see, well, dang, yeah, I already thought of this, and I remember this, and just the fact of getting it down. I think in that quote from Epictetus, it said, let me see where that went real quick. Epictetus said,
Alex is booing you, Mike.
What's that?
Alex is booing you.
He can suck it. It says right here, rational being demanded. What did I do that was unfriendly, unsocial, or uncaring? Right. One of the things I look at every freaking night before I do go to bed and I'm writing, dude, is like literally like what I could have done better, and like literally like where was I selfish in my day, right? And I guess there's times where you will find those excuses that you've made for yourself. I did it because of this, and you're like, well, shit, dude, that was a total excuse. Like,
I just say gangster rap made me do it.
Gangster rap made me do it.
Ain't nothing to it.
And but really though, like from a business standpoint, excuses truly are a roadblock to growth. Like we were talking about the contract, and Brad, you said, don't just freaking sit there and make excuses. You should be going out and finding another contract.
What's that? Or like a partnership that maybe dissolves at some point. You can get your feelings hurt and start to blame that person for everything that they did, but or you can go out there and network more, or continue to build something on your own, or do whatever. Like, even if you have to scramble for a little bit, you start to freak out and then go, all right, let's get some shit done, and then you go fucking do it.
Looking at what you did in the situation, even if you really like writing a fourth step, I was having to write about like what I did wrong when my son died. Like, what did I do that was selfish in that situation and shit. And when you start looking at things like that, and when you really start analyzing situations where, okay, this happened, so this person canceled this or whatever, screwed me over in this way, but really, what did I do? You can't really think of it. If you keep thinking about it, you'll find something that you could have done better, man. And it doesn't mean you did something evil or something like horribly wrong. There's always something you could have done.
Yeah, you could have maybe gotten lazy or not gotten your point across enough.
Just didn't say one thing that maybe if you had said it would have changed an outcome, dude.
Yeah.
Like, simple little shit. But when you realize that, then you start to become a better communicator, which means you're working with people better, and you will start making more money. I guarantee it. It's like that engineering that Fletch is talking about. Like the way you're engineering a better you, and a better you, if you're already working for yourself, you're already successful, a better you means more success, right? That is the way I see it, And so I think that it's extremely important to keep excuses out of daily vocabulary. I mean, it is a protection. It is a self-protection. It's a harm reduction thing we do for ourselves, but it's detrimental as shit, And I think other than writing, and I don't really have another way to deal with it, how to tell people to deal with it, but that's how I deal with it. Like excuses, how do you keep excuses out of yourself, Brad? Like, how do you keep?
I hit the bag. I do something physical, that way it doesn't just sit there and fester. So like I've had weeks or days or whatever. It's like, I gotta go hit the bag, hit the bag. I feel better. You get your heart rate up, you get that sweat going. That's what makes me feel better. That, or I can take it, bottle it, and not bottle it like long term, but take it and like focus it and turn it into something good. Okay, because that happened, I'm going to take it. I'm going to build this, this, and this. And I'm going to make more money off of that if we're talking about partnerships or whatever. And then boom, you're back in the black, or way ahead.
Right. What about you, Corey? Like for excuses, do you have a process behind this that you think you've used to like keep them out, or if you make them, what are you doing? Like, what's up, dude?
Well, I think, excuses can be like really sneaky. Like you don't realize you're making excuses.
Yeah.
So I tend to go back to like, what are the things that I'm, that my brain is trying to trick me into worrying about. So I start worrying, like, let's say I'm like, okay, worrying about like my health or my money or the business. And then I back into that and I say, okay, what has triggered this? And okay, and then let's look at why am I even feeling this, and why is that trigger there? And and then from there, when I chase that down, when I chase that, what I would consider a negative emotion down, it's always tied to an excuse. Oh well, I went to bed late, and so I got up late, and so that excuse compounded over a long period of time is the reason why certain things aren't going right in my life. So, I don't think that, doing the daily like morning routine and then, to get your mind ready to do the things in work and your body and everything else that you need to do, you're not going out and running a marathon every single day. You're just batting singles in all these different areas. So,
I mean, the morning routine allows you to tell yourself, I'm not going to go too hard tonight, because then that'll throw my morning routine off. If I'm hungover, I'm not fucking getting out of bed.
Yeah.
If I know I've got the gym scheduled, first thing in the morning, then I can't drink a case of beer and get up and feel good enough to go in there, when I'm trying to hold down, vomit, so.
But then that night you're thinking about it. Okay, I could give myself the excuse to do that.
You could, yeah.
And then you've got an excuse up there. Well, it's my birthday. I should be able to do this, and I'm going to go do it tonight. Or, anything like that. That you're going to.
Or say you slip, and then you legitimately can't do what you had planned to do that day. You'd be like, instead of like, oh, woe is me, you can be you can say, okay, I'm not going to fucking do that again, and then you can recall that the next time that opportunity presents itself.
What about you, Fletch, man? I do agree. I think it's a lifestyle. I think we all in this business and this industry have to do something, whether we know we're doing it or not, or we can literally. It's too easy to do whatever the hell we want to do. Yeah. And if we don't have that discipline, then it's a big problem.
Quick, serious question though, Mike. If you and Alex were both lobsters, would you rip his tentacles off?
Yes.
I thought so.
Those little pokey freaking eyeballs.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Rip a leg off or whatever. It's from the Peterson book. Yeah. I would rip his big claw off, because I don't care for him much. So.
What about you, Fletch? If you were a lobster, dude.
Now I'm strangely hungry for some lobster.
I could go for some crustaceans,
Yeah. But I mean, I'm kind of joking there, but that's our mind is so capable of just quickly hopping topics.
Oh, it's so true.
Really, one of the fundamental things strategically in your own life is just being able to think properly and really disciplined, right? And writing, like if you aren't great at thinking properly already, and I would bet you the amount of money I have across the board, anyone who's listening, is you're not already great at it. You're not doing it all the time, right? Writing can help, because you can look back at what you wrote a year ago and be like, what in the hell?
Yeah, no doubt.
Like I look back at some of the things, I'm like, oh my, this is a crazy person that wrote this. Right. And it's like, oh, but I'm right today. Well, the thing is, a year ago, you thought you were right as well.
TQM, it's total quality management, continuous improvement.
Yeah. I used to be so dumb, but now, no, it's we have the capacity to be completely idiotic all the time, right this second. And so, writing or journaling or however you want to do it, it lets you continue to maintain. It's not really being humble. It's recognizing how evil you can be. Again, Peterson talks about, you have to recognize that you can be a demonic monster right now.
No, and I'm talking literally, dude. Like I think about some things when I was young, and the situations and things I have done. And I know I'm capable of. I know what I'm capable of, unfortunately, and it sucks to know you're capable of shit.
Yeah.
But
I
you
think
have to know.
Yeah, as like an adult, and man, I tended to be very physical all my life. One of the things I get out of like when you get into those like states where you're going hard on the bag, or you're just blowing through a kettlebell workout or whatever, and you realize how much capacity for just physical exertion you have.
Destruction, dude.
And it's like, holy, like you can almost kind of like you can feel powerful, but that can also be, I got to keep this in check.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you
it
have
can
to.
be addicting.
And and practicing doing that, it's like, okay, I now recognize I have way more power than I felt like I had, an hour or two ago. But I also am now more practiced with managing it. And so that then you can apply that same conceptual framework, I guess, to writing. And you can look back and say, I recognize I have the capacity to think completely ridiculous thoughts that are damaging to myself and anyone around me that I care about. I need to keep this in check. How do I do that? I need to have a method that I always check back with to see if what I believe right now is accurate.
Yep. And I have to break this off because we have a webinar in like 2 minutes, Brad.
Yes, we do.
We do have to jump, but
Right on. Good topic today, Mike.
Yeah, that was Brad's topic, dude. He was like,
Well done, Brad.
He's like, let's do excuses, man.
Pulled it out of my ass, yeah.
He's like, I'm sick of dealing with you, Mike. Let's talk about some fucking excuses.
Get to some excuses.
All right, we'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you for being here on, and we'll see you guys next week.
And if you know, post what is we a female lobster in the comments
What
too.
is I we female?
Yeah, I can't read his.
Dude, I'm ripping.